Hey everyone, and welcome to Tactical Ink, your portal to the captivating realm of all things Lorcana. I'm Bradley.
And I'm Alex. Today we're continuing to discuss the top cards in Into the Inklands. And today we're going to go over the top 10 Emerald cards.
Some things to note, we're recording this pretty early after the release of Into the Inklands, so our minds may change as time goes on. But for now, this is our opinion on the top 10 Emerald cards.
And if there's a card that you feel like should have been on this list but didn't make it, please let us know in the comments below. Starting off our list at number 10 is Robin Hood Daydreamer. Robin Hood is an emerald character that costs 6 ink and is inkable. He has 4 strength, 5 willpower, and a whopping 4 lore. And he doesn't have anything else other than that. He's a pretty basic character. However, having that 4 lore for only 6 ink is not bad at all, and he's something that could be a bit of a threat earlier than a lot of other things. Being able to ramp into him with either Sapphire or Amber could be useful, could be a good strategy, and his stats at 4 strength and 5 willpower is pretty good as well.
Yeah, and besides Flynn Rider, his own biggest fan, he's the only character with 6 or less with 4 lore. You have Mickey Mouse Brave Little Tailor with 8 ink cost with 4 lore. You have Madam Mim Purple Dragon with 4 lore, but she has to return 2 characters that you control to your hand. And you have Goofy Night for a Day with a 9 ink cost. So him with 6 ink cost having 4 lore, it is the easiest to get out unless you're running Flynn Rider and having to discard your opponent's hand. And he goes very well with the Queen Disguised Peddler. You're able to exert her and discard Robin Hood from your hand and gain 4 lore really easily. Coming in at number 9 is Lyle, Tiberius Rourke. He is an emerald character that costs 3 and is uninkable. He has 2 strength, 4 willpower, and 1 lore. He is a storyborn and a villain. He has 2 effects. First is called Well, Now You Know. It says, when you play this character, chosen opposing character gains Reckless during their next turn. The next effect is called Thanks for Volunteering. Whenever one of your other characters is banished, each opponent loses 1 lore. So ever since this card's been revealed, I've been trying to build a deck around this. I love this idea, and I've still not connected the dots yet, but I'm hoping I can one day. Just his ability to give an opposing character Reckless. You could give a character that your opponent doesn't want to challenge Reckless and have them challenge and get it removed. And his second effect, whenever one of your other characters is banished, each opponent losing 1 lore, that can be really good if you can find a way to remove a lot of your characters easily. And giving Reckless is a good way to do that.
Yeah, he's pretty versatile. Just being able to give Reckless, that can have some different implications, such as, say you're near the end of the game and they're about to quest for the win. You could give a character Reckless, even though it's going to end up banishing something of yours, that'll buy you some time. And this Thanks for Volunteering ability is really interesting to me. Now, one thing I'll say that I'm unsure of at the time of making this video, but when something like Be Prepared goes off, I don't know how that works with this ability. We'll have to look more into that. But if that does mean that your opponent loses 1 lore for every character that they just banished, that's going to be a big hit to them. But just them, every time that they remove a character for yours, that's a downside. That's super helpful, and I see him being pretty solid for that.
Coming in at number 8 is Fang, River City. This is an emerald location that costs 4 and is inkable. It has a move cost of 2 and 6 willpower with 2 lore. Its effect is called Surrounded by Water. It says, characters gain ward and evasive while here. So, if you've been playing Lorcana since the beginning at first chapter, you know ward and evasive are very annoying effects when your opponent has it. So being able to give ward and evasive to any of your characters while they're there is really great. However, I feel like you have to use other cards like Jim Hawkins or Voyage or Magic Carpet to really get your characters there, just because it is a 4 cost and it costs 2 for each of your characters. So you kind of have to build around it. However, if you get your characters there, it can be a pretty good card.
Yeah, and we don't see a lot of success so far between the Ruby Emerald Ink combo. Maybe that'll change eventually to where Gem and Fang can go together. But as Bradley said, having to pay 2 to move one of your characters there is really slow. It just slows your tempo down a lot. However, before Into the Inklands was revealed, I was thinking to myself, I wonder if we'll ever get something that has ward and evasive. And then look here, now we've got it. Because putting those two things together is almost impossible to remove. And get one of your characters here that is just setting them up to stay alive for a long time.
Coming in at number 7 is Milo Thatch, King of Atlantis. Milo is a 7-cost character that is uninkable. He has 4 strength and 4 willpower with 3 lore. He is a Floodborn, hero, and king. He has shift 4. His effect is called Take Them by Surprise. It says, when this character is banished, return all opposing characters to their player's hands. This is a character that, at first when I read this, I was like, oh, this is going to be an amazing card. However, since this came out and we played around with it, it's still great at moments, but it has kind of fallen a little bit. Its 4 willpower actually hurts it more than it helps it, because it's hard to get it banished. It seems like it'd be great because you can start getting free lore pretty easily because you don't think your opponent's going to want to challenge it. However, a lot of the times your opponent will challenge it with one character, knocking it down lower, and then challenge it with another character and then return all their stuff to their hand, and it heals their characters, and you lose your 7-cost character, which actually puts you behind. There is times where it's good, but there's a lot of times where it's just not played very well.
And having a high cost at 7 being uninkable, you're really going to want to shift this. And if you can't find the other Milo through your deck to shift him onto, you're going to be having a hard time. Emerald doesn't run control as frequently as something like Ruby Amethyst that's going to want to wait to play that late game 7 ink cost. So really you just want to get him out early, and that's depending on having the 1 ink Milo to begin with. And another thing to mention is how a lot of cards that your opponent have can give them bonuses, can give them rewards by entering the battlefield. So if you return their cards to hand and they have a bunch of Merlins in their hand or something like that, they're going to get some added bonus for putting that back onto the field. That's a lot of downsides to this card, but there's obviously the good that you could completely flip this game in your favor if everything goes correctly. And something that I'd find interesting, seeing as Emerald still do pair together, would be if you could get Milo banished on your turn and then sing A Whole New World, you'd be discarding all that stuff from your opponent's hand that you just returned, which could be also extremely effective. So number 6 on our list for Emerald is Strike a Good Match. This is an Emerald action and song that costs 2 ink to play. Being a song, any character with ink cost 2 or more can exert to sing this for free. And it says, draw 2 cards, then choose and discard a card. This is basically a little bit cheaper and not nearly as good version of Friends on the Other Side, but it still does give Emerald some much needed card draw. And after all, card draw is one of the most important things in the game, so it's going to be very usable and frequently played.
And it being an Emerald is a really good card because there's only a few cards that draw. This being one of 9 cards in Emerald that actually draw cards for you. And this is arguably the best out of all of them.
Yeah, you've got Prince John, who has been one of the main draw engines in Emerald, but otherwise you're usually looking at your other ink color to bring you along the way to draw your cards. Well, now Strike a Good Match can help you a little bit more. It'll dig into your deck a bit and find you what you need. It's also nice to note that being an Emerald, if you sang this twice with Ursula, Deceiver of All, now you're drawing 4 cards and you only have to discard 2. That's even more value, and that makes it even better. So number 5 for Emerald is Kit Cloudkicker, Tough Guy. Kit is a 3-ink character that has 2 strength and 2 willpower with 1 lore. He's a storyborn and ally with the ability Sky Surfing, which says when you play this character, you may return chosen opposing character with 2 strength or less to their player's hand. When Kit was first revealed, I didn't think much into him, but now that I've played against it a lot, he is clearly one of the best cards of this set for Emerald. Because there are simply just a lot of important characters with 2 strength or less that he can move back to their hand. Some notable ones would be characters like the Bodyguard Simba Protective Cub, Tiana Celebrating Princess, a lot of the Amber characters that try to flood the board like Piglet, Pooh Pirate Captain, and Lilo Making a Wish, or Pluto Friendly Pooch, as well as like some of the Jafar Floodborne targets, such as Jafar Lamp Thief, Prince Eric, Expert Helmsman, the list goes on and on.
And yeah, he actually can target 47% of the characters in the game currently right now, which is a pretty good amount of characters.
Add into that if you're playing with Amethyst and you bounce him back and forth from your hand so that you can take characters out of the game multiple times, that's just a really good effect. So for number 4, we have Cursed Merfolk. The Cursed Merfolk is a 1-ink character that is uninkable. They have 0 strength and 1 willpower with 2 lore, and the effect Poor Souls, which says whenever this character is challenged, each opponent chooses and discards a card. Every character in the game so far that has 1 ink and 2 lore has been extremely viable and been used a lot for lore rush. And this having no strength doesn't really matter to me. I'm never challenging or trying to banish with one of these little puny characters. But its ability that causes your opponent to discard a card makes it almost better than any of those other 1-ink characters like Lilo or Maleficent biding her time.
Yeah, and the only reason I don't have this as high on the list is because late game, it's not the best option to be drawing. And it can die to pretty much everything like Giant Fairy, Swords, Be Prepared, and just like every other 1-drop like it. It's best early game, and it's one of the best cards for early game to get you to that 20 lore quickly.
So speaking of starting the game off strong, we'll go to our number 3 pick, which is Ursula Deceiver. Ursula Deceiver is an Emerald character that costs 2 ink and is inkable, with 1 strength and 3 willpower and 1 lore. She's a storyborn villain and sorcerer, and she has the ability You'll Never Even Miss It, which says when you play this character, chosen opponent reveals their hand and discards a song card of your choice. So she's kind of like Bare Necessities in a character's body. Not quite as good, obviously, because she can only remove songs, but songs are one of the most important things to be able to remove. And of course, you're getting to see your opponent's hand, which is always just such a helpful thing to be able to do. She's great in the early game if you want to be able to protect your Ursula Deceiver Evolve from some songs like Let the Storm Rage On and Strength of a Raging Fire. And she's really great in the late game for getting rid of those powerful songs that, such as Be Prepared and Grab Your Swords.
Another thing that could get pretty nasty, which I'm not seeing really right now, is an Amethyst Emerald with bouncing it. I did see it a little bit in our local tournaments, but bouncing Ursula to your hand with like Madam M Snake or Madam M Fox and then replaying her, it can get pretty ugly with any of these discard cards, honestly, but bouncing Ursula, man, it's not fun. Coming in at number 2 is Morph, Space Goo. Morph is an Emerald character that costs 2 ink and is inkable. He has 2 strength and 1 willpower, and he has 1 lore. He is a storyborn, ally, and alien. He has the effect called Mimicry. It says, you may play any character with shift on this character as if this character had any name. Now, Morph is one of those characters that his stats don't look good for a cost 2, but you're not really playing him for the stats. You're playing him to shift out other characters. and he is a great option for several characters. Right now, there's a lot of characters that want to have cheaper shipped options, and they just don't have them. For example, Beast Tragic Hero. It just gives a cheaper option to get him out quicker, and also it kind of throws your opponent off too, and your opponent doesn't know what's coming. Whereas if you have another character of the same name, they can see what's coming. Say for example, you want to shift out Bell Hidden Archer, and you are running Bell Bookworm. If you play Bell Bookworm, your opponent's going to know, hey, I bet you they may have Bell Hidden Archer, I better watch out for it. However, if you have Morph on the battlefield, they have no idea what's coming. It could be Bell Hidden Archer, it could be Beast Tragic Hero, who knows? And it kind of keeps your opponent on their toes.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of Emerald and Steel control using Morph as one of the key cards, because Steel has so many different Floodborns that can come out, such as Tinkerbell Giant Fairy and Beast Tragic Hero, who can now come out on turn 3. The really powerful Robin Hood, Champion of Sherwood, you name it. There's Cinderella Stouthearted. There's a lot of stuff to look out for, and this has helped Emerald to be able to control the game with Steel a lot more powerfully. It just makes your deck a lot more consistent. You may run some of those Tinkerbell Tiny Tacticians, some of those other low-cost options, but if you're running Morph as well, you're much more likely to get that big Tinkerbell or big Robin Hood out than you would have been otherwise.
And coming in at number 1 is Ursula, Deceiver of All. She is an Emerald character that costs 3 and is inkable. She has 2 strength, 3 willpower, and 1 lore. She is a Dreamborn, Villain, and Sorcerer. The printed version of Ursula has Storyborn there, but she is actually a Dreamborn. Her effect is called What a Deal. It says, whenever this character sings a song, you may play that song again from your discard for free, then put it on the bottom of your deck. This is arguably one of the best cards in the whole entire set, if not the top one. Her ability to sing a song twice is just so powerful, especially when you're playing songs like Mother Knows Best, even at Friends on the Other Side drawing 4 cards. The list goes on and on. Basically any song that she sings gets so powerful. You're playing stuff for free. And then you get to put it on the bottom of your deck, and it keeps your deck going as well, and you won't ever deck out.
A couple more songs I'd like to point out that I don't see being used as often right now, but I think could be really powerful, are things like Sudden Chill, making your opponent discard 2 cards, practically emptying their hand in the early game, or Legend of the Sword and the Stone even. You never see that card, but to be able to remove locations, that's kind of a possibility, giving somebody +6. Or something like One Jump Ahead, to be able to put 2 ink into your inkwell. Using that with the Sapphire Mama Odie, all of a sudden you'll be adding 3 ink to your inkwell for just 1 song. There's just so many different options.
Some cards I've seen with Ursula that's been just so powerful in local tournaments is Let the Storm Rage On, dealing 2 damage to character and drawing a card, and then getting to do that again. Either banishing one character that has a lot of willpower, or banishing 2 characters early. It just is hard to come back from. And also Strength of a Raging Fire. Depending on how many characters you have, if you have 3 or 4, you're probably removing 2 characters right off the board. It's a very, very good early control card that if you're not watching out for it, your board may be wiped out and you may not be getting it back, and you may lose the game.
Tempo can mean everything in Lorcana. Being able to stay at pace with your opponent, and if they use something like Mother Knows Best to take everything you have off the board, all of a sudden you really might not be able to catch up. And having friends on the other side drop 4 cards, all of a sudden you're not going to have any problem deciding what you want to ink for basically the rest of the game. You can ink what you want, play what you want. I mean, you just got 4 cards for free. If Ursula is allowed to sing, it can very likely be the end of the game.
Well, that's all for today. What cards do you think we missed? Tell us in the comments below.
Be sure to follow us on social media to keep up to date on the latest Tactical Ink news. Also, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you can tune in every Friday for a new episode of Tactical Ink.
See you next week.